Welcome back to another episode of the Embodied Business Show. I am so excited today for my guest. This has been a long time coming. We met by absolute chance in Austin, and I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
Chance! There's no such thing as coincidences, right? But when I met you, it solidified for me the man that you are online. So welcome, Garrain, to the Embodied Business Show. I'm so excited to have you here. Embodied Business.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I do have a quick question. What specifically was that solidified the man that you have online? Because I'm sure some people are watching.
Yeah.
They're like, "Whoa, what was it?"
Yeah, well, so for me, I've always had this idea in my head that you were such a strong masculine figure. And this is actually a great intro because this is one of the questions that one of my clients wanted me to ask because we were actually there together when I met you with her, right? And so we're standing there and you've walked in to like the cafe area in Onnit where we were, and instantly you were incredibly present with us. And it was beautiful. There was like just this immense, like, yep, you're here, you've arrived, and you're holding space and having the conversation freely with no kind of thing. And I remember you walked away and you'd said to us, "Oh, I'm having an event coming up," but we were already leaving Austin before it happened. And
Yeah.
Estelle, my client, looked at me and she goes, "That's how you share your work." Like, she's like, "That was so embodied. It was so beautiful." Oh, and she was really excited. And later on, we were actually having a conversation because we were also staying in an Airbnb together while we were over. And we were having a conversation around how when we were younger, that kind of energy could have been misdirected as a woman because it was so powerful. And we could have taken that as like, "Oh my God, he's interested in me." However, it was this really powerful presence of, "I'm here and you're really safe with me. And there's no leaky energy here." It was just presence and power. And I'd love to open this conversation with you actually, because this is something that we see a lot of men when they start to really step into their power and they start to open themselves up. They get a little bit confused and they can take that kind of energy in their ego and in their stride and they start to play with it in a way that's not really embodied. How did you come into that kind of space?
Well, that's a really good question because that's how I started. I was like, "What is this energy? I don't know what to do with it." So I turned it to sex. I
Yeah.
wasn't like trying to be this person with leaky energy. There was no male figures in my life that modeled integrity, dignity, honor, loyalty, devotion, commitment. I've never in my life did I see somebody that I wanted my life to look like. So I'm throwing shots in the dark, a broken boy trying to be a man, calling myself a man, but like a bottomless pit in my soul. So that is the same person who had a daughter when he was 21 years old, went to prison for 2.5 years, came up in a home where there was barely any affection, no outward expression of love, and a brother who bullied him, and people made fun of him because he thought or dressed or acted differently than everyone else. That was me up until I was, 35? Like I had, because adults are deteriorated children. So me doing with women, it's like seeing women through my dad's eyes. I had no other direction. It's not to excuse what I did. However, I knew that there was something that I was doing and who I was being when I was trying to, desperately to have a relationship with I have a daughter who's 22 years old. I'm 45 now. And everything I tried, nothing worked. She didn't care how much money I had. She didn't care how much influence I had, how much I traveled, what businesses I had, how popular I was. She didn't care. She just wanted daddy, but there was never a daddy around for me to even know what that was. My dad was never around. He was murdered when I was 12. So I'm used to dad not being around. So in desperate desire to find out what was it inside of me that my 15-year-old daughter won't trust. That's what took me into communications course level 1, 2, 3, and 4, insight 1, 2, and 3, landmark 1, 2, and 3, all these leadership courses. What is it? Emotional intelligence, mastery and transformation training 1, 2, and 3, 10 days in the dark, 5 days in silent. And the intention was, what is it inside of me that my daughter doesn't trust? So in digging into the depths of my soul that I unconsciously stuffed down, I met the part of me that I hated. And that part of me was how men in my life, my brother, my dad treated my mom, my brother treated women. I hated it. But if I hate man, well, then I hate a part of myself. And naturally, I'm going to do what I see. So going through that, I was able to discover the root of the hate. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I decided I was going to be the most powerful representation of who my daughter would marry one day with no model. So I literally had to create a character and make that, whoever said affirmations don't work. No, affirmations that you don't believe. And like, keep on believing and believing. I am the most powerful representation of who my daughter will marry one day. That changed how I thought, how I spoke, how I treated her. And she became the model to where I was unconsciously reverberating a completely different frequency to all of these other women around me without me even knowing it. So their relationships with their dads, without me knowing, started changing based off of how they were perceiving me pursuing my daughter, which meant, holy crap, the power of women and the mental suggestions and how they project. But if they don't have another version of a dad, he'll stay right there. So just by seeing and picturing themselves as that little girl and me as their dad, like 30 women's relationship starts changing. So to close this out, when I became someone who felt safe in my body and I was so confident to be in relation with my daughter, that's when I met my wife. And now, through training with my daughter, I see women through my daughter's eyes, not my dad's eyes. And she wants to feel safe. She wants to feel seen. She wants to feel heard, and not the kind of heard where I repeat back what you say. It's, I'm so radically present with you as if God is in the room in flesh form, that I can feel what your heart is saying beyond your words. My daughter trained that inside of me because I wanted the relationship. And my now current wife, Blair, is what 100x that. So that presence that you felt is something that's how that was what was trained inside of me on how to truly be in right relation and honor women as the divine specimens that they are without wanting anything.
The word that comes to mind when you say that is like just complete attunement, right?
Yeah.
Like everything and anything that is around you is like really being able to hold the space for that. And through your work, that's essentially what you're playing with, right? Like, you know, when you're playing with the voice, when you're activating, like your whole brand is artist power. I'd really love to know, because since we've decided to do this, I've done a bit of research, and you've really opened up like through the music industry, and you've had big record deals that have turned sideways through your story. I'd love for you to share, like, you know, when I talk about embodied business, the whole thing for me is like people who have truly like allowed their heart to lead the way. They've become so embodied in what they are and who they are that it's crafted a way for other people to walk that life path as well. And when you play with this level of energy where you're attuning to like hundreds of people in the room and you're singing and you're opening up throat chakras and like clearing the bodies, how did that work come to life?
So when I was in the music industry, the thing that I was known for is I could walk into a studio, and I don't even know, no one taught me this. This was just something that was inside of me. And I would hear the beginning of a song I'd never heard before, and it would activate something in my body, and something else would take over, and I would just trust. And it was like I could freestyle an entire song, note perfect, a song that I'd never heard for. So it was like an outer worldly, inner worldly version of myself that and this was all unconscious in the music. And I was like, I don't know. I'd come out of the booth and they're like, how'd you do that? And I'm like, God, like I just didn't know what attunement was, and trusting, and according to your level of deep trust, that determines the exact equivalent of how your intuition plays a role in your life. They're connected. And because I trained up so much on trusting myself with the music, with the sound, even on an unconscious level, it allowed me to be able to hear the world beyond the world of thought. I'd be able to hear and feel frequencies and energies. And what I was known for was weaving harmonies together. Like I would take all these different notes, even notes that don't belong together. Like I literally have scholars try to break apart what I did. And they were like, there's no way that this note, but how did you produce that sound? It's because they were focused on perfection and I was focused on feeling. And I realized early on that there's no such thing as a bad note. It's just surrounded around the wrong combination of notes. So I would build an entire world of notes that would produce these harmonies. That, it's no difference than when you're in martial arts and then you go from the white belt to the brown belt. Like you don't leave any disciplines on the table. So when I did all those harmonies and then I got into graphic design and people were like, oh my God, what app did you use? And they don't even know I used 15, 16 different apps and layers. It was tapping into the same place where I was layering all these vocals. So I had a high sensibility of trusting the notes that came through and how to weave these, because I was trying to do anything to produce a specific feeling. And then I would say about a year and a half ago, I was so down on myself and I was like, oh my God, I left music. That was the most creative aspect of myself. And that was about 2 years ago, creative aspect of myself. And I was like, and then a voice inside goes, Garrain, you never left music. Your new notes became people. That's why you're so great with building organizations and communities. They all have notes and vibration inside of them. And I was like, oh! And I look at all of the organizations that I've built and developed. I mean, multiple six-figure, but they're like, how do you do that so fast? And then they pay me tons of money to go into these companies and figure out how to get them to work together, produce a specific result.
Yeah.
It has been woven through my life, my entire life, to bring harmony and melodies and music and vibration and frequency together, because all of them are connected. It wasn't until I said, oh my God, when I quit the music industry, I also said I quit the most creative aspect of myself. And he said, Garrain, well, you can leave what actually doesn't fit, but you can take that sweet nectar of the juice. And that's when I said, I'm going to do music. And then I picked up the drum, and then I'm leading 500-person drum circles within 2 weeks after never drumming, but it was always anciently encoded inside of me. But I gave myself full permission to be that person. So to wrap this up, it was never any one thing, but it was the starting process was accepting who I really am without denial, without trying to be this or that and trying to fit all of these different buckets. This is me. I am a multi-dimensional human being that plays in the physical realm and the non-physical realm, and then transmutes the realm that goes beyond both the non-physical and the physical realm. Some days I can hear alien code. Some days I can talk with trees. Some days I can connect and communicate with the ancestors in a very practical way. And I just happen to be a badass business person as well and understand a high degree. And I never accepted that I can actually be all of me. That's what Michael Jackson did. That's what Prince did. Why not me?
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of, okay, I'm going to accept the real me. So now when these ideas started coming in, they're coming in through the filter of the signal that I had put out called the real me. Artist Power, my company, came through that. They were like, you've always faced the crowd to play music, but you've never actually faced the music and conducted the music for the crowd. Artist Power, my company, is me actually facing the music of the gifts and the art and the drumming and the singing and the dancing and the creativity, and orchestrating that to then play for the crowd.
It's so beautiful, because and you've mentioned this a little bit online, right? Like the music industry itself can be a heavy, dark place, right? Like we all know it. Let's not hide the bullshit that goes with that, right? But for you to come through and still be so spiritually clean, like obviously, yes, you worked through a lot to get to this place, but what tools do you hold now that hold that space for you now to be able to tap into that on a regular basis?
Well, the most practical way is I had a client who she's earning, her business is worth $50 million. She's got a beautiful husband. She's got, amazing house and team and all this other stuff. But yet she's sitting in, my chair. It's a couple of years ago, crying, snotty nose crying, something is missing. Something is missing. I thought this was it, but it's not. And I said, what did you used to love to do as a kid? I mean, just, or at least early on, that used to bring you the most joy. And then all of a sudden she goes, I used to dance. And then her hands I was like, wait a second. I'm noticing scrunched shoulders, countenance down, snotty nose crying. I even talk about what did you used to love, and instantly chest out, hands up. And I was like, there's an entire world inside of there. And it's my job to notice all of even the microscopic details and the change in temperature of even questions that I ask.
Yeah.
And I said, when was the last time you danced? And she goes back into the countenance. 20 years ago.
Wow.
And I knew exactly what was going on. I said, you have kids, right? She said, yes. How many? 3. So imagine if just one of your kids came up to you and said, Mom, and she's tapping you on the knee. Mom, listen to me. Mom, listen. And you never listened for 20 years. How do you think the relationship would be? She said, there wouldn't be one. Why? There would be no emotional closure. So let's just say what you used to love as a child, whether you remember it or not, somebody in your life does. Whether it's running, singing, dancing, playing in the rain, flopping around the house naked, playing and putting your feet in sand. I mean, just you name it, anything. Let's just say that's connected to your inner child. And every day that goes by, and then all of a sudden, oh, I used to dance. Or you see like a dance recital on there or something, and just like this little thing flares up inside of you. Let's just say your inner child is tapping on your soul, saying, Mom, listen to me. Why won't anybody pay attention to me? Listen to me. It will do the same thing to your soul as a relationship if you don't honor that child and create emotional enclosure. So what's missing? That's the disconnect from the spiritual and the physical self. Adults are deteriorated children, and you get to remember. So she starts dancing once a week, not dancing to escape,
Yeah.
dancing to remember. Once a week, 20 minutes. You invest in everything. You invest time in all these different things. You invest. But you mean to tell me you have no time for your heart?
Mm.
That's where the issue is. That's the bottleneck.
Yeah.
She starts dancing. Sex becomes better. Relationships becomes better. Company doubled. She was like, everybody's changed. I'm like, no, homie, you changed. Whoever told us when we were little kids, you just act like the world revolves around you. Actually, it does. You're the most powerful magnet in the world.
Mm.
So when you attune yourself to your joys, and you're very clear on that, I don't care how long it takes, your world is going to match. As above, so below, as within, so without. It is law. It is literally a law. You drop a seed into the ground, give it proper water and sunlight. Whatever the health of the seed determines the growth of the tree and the fruit that it produces.
Yeah. It's so powerful, right? Like one thing that I always talk about inside my business is the reason why a lot of people can't grow their business is because it's that trapped little child is trying to run the business because they're so not heard. They're so shut down, suppressed, repressed, and people are looking for these big profits and big places. And I even had this conversation with Preston, my mentor, one of your good friends, and he was like, what's going on with you? This was just like a couple months ago. And I realized I'd done that myself. And it was like this moment where I'd caught it within like a couple of weeks. Like normally that is like, I'm so big and bold, and I'd caught myself shut down. And within weeks, it had made me feel so dry. And then you look at people who do this their entire life and they sit and wonder what's going on. Why can't I connect? Why am I not available for life? And the one thing that I really love about all the work that you do, it's like, it's so much about expression, right? It's like, how big can you allow your field to be? How big can you let that magnetism, like not just penetrate externally, but also internally as well, right? When you started playing with this work, did it ever like scare you a little bit? Because the reason why I ask this question is because I've had moments where I've up-leveled, right? And I've had these tiny little up-levels, but then my own power has scared me. And so I pulled back. And so I've had to then come back in and solidify this version of me. And I'm sure you would have seen this with clients, with yourself, with different people of like, what does it take at every up level to learn how to integrate those pieces? And I'd love to hear your advice on those pieces.
I will tell you, my bigness didn't scare me. Other people around me scared me because I grew up in an environment where I wasn't allowed to be my expressive self.
Yeah.
Like, I love my mom to life. Every time I would open my mouth, because I wouldn't sing like this. I would sing really loud, but I would get even louder because I never unconsciously didn't have a space to like release it.
Yeah.
And she would be like, shut up, every night, almost every night. And so then I go to school and I would get right up, suspended in school suspension, kicked out of public school because I got too many discipline slips in 1 year. You want to know what 99.9% of those discipline slips? Students singing in class.
Wow. It's like literally shunning the child.
That would be like right now.
Yeah.
Our daughter's soul had perfect rhythm at 6 months. I've never seen that in a child in my life. I mean, when I tell you perfect rhythm, she looked like an adult, like with changing between 5 different songs. That would be like Blair and I saying, hey, don't dance.
Yeah.
And shutting down a natural expression. So my domestication is somebody's going to come around the corner and tell me to stop, shut up, you're being too loud, I'm going to get reprimanded, I'm going to get in trouble, I'm going to get kicked out. That's the environment I came in. there was never a safe environment.
Yeah.
The safest environment that I've ever felt was my retreats. I created that so that I could be, and I didn't even know what was in there, but I knew it was 99% more than anyone had ever experienced of me.
Yeah.
But I had to train up. But if you're always looking over your shoulder, who's going to tell me to shut up and who's going to tell me I'm so loud? And I get it. I probably annoyed people and I pissed people off, but inside I'm dying.
Yeah.
So wonder why unhealthy expression came out in ways that didn't serve and support me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, right? Because I remember as a kid, I used to love singing as a kid as well. And I would sing in the bath because, it always sounds better in the bathroom. But I'd sing in the bath and I would think no one could hear me, right? And then one day my brother started mocking me for singing in the bath. And so I didn't sing anymore. And then when I was used to be a personal trainer, and I was like, everything that I did for fun, I was now doing as a job. So I went and started doing singing lessons as just a way for my self-expression and a way just to come back in. And I realized I'd connected that part of myself. I felt so liberated just through doing singing lessons and allowing myself just to play. And I remember I got feedback from my partner at one point, which was just like, I was going to post a video because I'd gone to Tony Robbins like a week before and I'd stretched my tonsils, like my vocal cords, and they were really scratchy. And I was going to post a video being like, it's not always perfect, but this is what sometimes it feels like. And it still felt good. And he was like, I wouldn't post that. And I noticed myself immediately be like, oh, I can't share this with the world. And I created a big story around it. And it's only been like the last 2 years that I've started singing again. And it's one of these things that it's crazy how much people can take this stuff on, right? How often when people come into your world, like because there's so much like somatic liberation, like what are some of the things that you see happen after they've been to your retreats?
They call in the partners that they actually want. They start making money that's associated with the vibration that they're in. I mean, quickly, it's not even a slow thing because if you take a volleyball and you put it underneath the water because the flotation device, it's trying to come up. But when you take your hand off the ball, and all this is trust. Yeah. How fast does the ball go up?
That's how slowly you let it go, right? Like,
yeah. But if you just go like this, it's going to rise really fast. But it's going to rise to where it's already supposed to be. Even right now, I'm under where I know I could be because I'm still working through things, and then have a powerful relationship, then powerful parenting. There's always going to be things to work through, but I know vibrationally, I'm probably at 20%. Yeah. It's funny. And that 20% has inspired and impacted. It's made millions and it's inspired millions. So I just want to put a little bit of more emphasis on this to really start trusting that who you really are is the gateway to everything that you want in your life. Not what you settled for, not what you gave up on, not what you're trying to prove, not the significance, who you really are deep down. And maybe you always wanted to be a singer, but you never sang. Maybe that's in there, but there was never a space to do it. Yeah. The moment you start finding your real self, your world is just going to match vibrationally. Yeah. And it's interesting, hey, because like over the years, I was talking to one of my clients about this. A lot of people think that if they put that energy into their business, that's where the abundance will come from. And it's like, I'll just drive it and I'll be myself in my business and I'll just drive and drive and drive. And my partner and I were working it out the other day. And
we've had so many moments where that much abundance has come in where it's not been anything we've worked for, right? And we worked it out. We've had over $500,000 come in just when we've had expansions in ourselves that have not been business related. Like, and that's been in the last couple of years. It's just like every time we've cracked open a deeper layer of ourselves or something, it's just like, boom, it's just more abundance has showed up. It just keeps happening and happening and happening. And it's like, I don't think people realize that it's not about what you're doing in the world. It's about who you're being and how you're connected with self. And just, yeah, like I feel like it's just this deepening over and over and over again. Every time we think we know ourselves, or I know for myself anyway, speak for me. When I think I know myself, I'm humbled again every single time, right? And it's this beautiful lesson. But I'm curious, right? Because one of my audience members, they've come in with you appear to have flow, but so much structure as well in life. How does this? Yeah.
Ooh, your boy is grown.
How do you manage the both? Because obviously having, multi-million-dollar businesses and all these kinds of things, there's going to be a level of discipline that comes in with that, right? And a lot of people take, I would say a lot of people who are not embodied in their spirituality practices, they move into this like pendulum swing where they go so far into the feminine that they can't bring themselves back. They don't know how to do that structure. How do you find peace in that?
One, I have the most perfect wife who is I won't say the other half, but she is a specialist in areas where I'm growing. She's a specialist in structure and systems. So just by way of proximity, I'm just around. That's why you are the closest people you surround yourself around.
Yeah.
Me, before Blair, I was just free-flowing, shit show, dropping all kind of balls. Me now, because she won't even allow it to happen, and some days I don't like it at all because it's literally challenging the old part of me that I want to hang on. But I know in my soul of souls, it's what I need.
Yeah.
I try to run away from it. It's what I need. So how do I do it? I keep great fucking people in my life that don't allow me to be like weak or old version of Garrain. I don't keep a bunch of yes. And I have a lot of people that I know. Yeah. I don't have a lot of friends. And if you're a friend in my life, they just kind of hold me accountable. But that's what I want. Yeah. And so my wife, my COO, Laura, and their brains are how I am with manifesting and creating magical stuff. My wife can hear me speak for 10 hours, literally. I can talk for 10 hours. By the time I'm done, she'll show me the PowerPoint. It'll be color coded, and then there will be like spreadsheet. And everything. She was like, "This is what you said." And I'm like, "Yo, it'll take me 10 years to do that."
Yeah.
So knowing what your weaknesses are, knowing what your strengths are, and having the right people in your life that can literally balance and harmonize that out. I know how to pick great team. Yeah. And even though I can be stubborn at times, I always come around. I'm like, you're right. You're right. You're right. And so I'd say the people that I keep in my life have something, even people that I hire, they're smarter than me in certain things. I'm not going to hire somebody that's just like me. It's like what you bring to the table. I'm like, clearly that gives you life. I don't want to do my emails. I'll hire you to do the emails.
Yeah, it's quite potent when you have an opposing partner that actually brings you and grounds you in, because
this is where people run away, by the way. A lot of people.
Like me and my partner are exactly the same. I'm very much the visionary, can go out and do things, and he'll be like, "Hold on, check in here. What do we do?" And I'm like, it doesn't land the same way. And so it's great to have that. And I think you're right. Like, this is where people run away, because they have this idea that conscious relationships is like, let's just sit down and have D&Ms and sip cacao and do mushroom
Yeah, and
ceremonies all the time.
like, oh, and there's nothing, and we're just alike. I'm like, I can tell you where this relationship is gonna go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that soul needs to be challenged. Like they don't just give somebody abs. You're not just given weight loss. You're not just given muscles. You're not just given those things. It's got to be earned. So if
Yeah.
you want to take your even relationship to a level you've never been before, this person's going to have to be different. Somebody's going to go first. That's going to challenge. Sometimes people don't make it because the other one wants to stay. So that one keeps graduating. So why would a fifth grader wait around continuously for a first? That's why when both partners are committed to growth, man, the ascension just keeps happening.
Yeah. It's a beautiful dance. Hey, like I know my partner and I, we almost separated 6 months ago. And it wasn't because we didn't love each other. It was because we felt like we were starting to like move in different directions. And the minute we were like, actually, hold on a second, this is a challenge for each other. Like, do we commit to love or do we commit to our egos running the show and not allowing ourselves to grow together? And so we came back in and it was such a like thrown in the fire moment of like everything came up. And like in these moments, this is where I'm grateful for mentorship, grateful for people holding me at that higher level. Like we had Preston and Alexi in our back corner being like, you two are being absolute shitheads to each other right now, like, and holding the mirror up for us so we could actually be like, oh, wow. Like, and this is why it's so important to have that proximity and have those people around you that can hold that. Now, I want to go deeper here with you because you're about to walk into the birth of your first son, right?
Mhm.
And having had girls, how different does it feel for you?
There's two parts.
Mm.
I could see how I would feel a lot different if I hadn't gone through dying to my old self and reparenting my own boy inside of me, and also being a pillar of masculinity inside of Austin, where there's a lot of men that are really boys that don't have that example. And these straight up man-to-man conversations that I've had is literally like raising a boy. So all of this practice, it's gotten me up to I know as much as I can know, and then when baby Chief comes, he's going to open up a whole new world for me, and that's something I don't know, but I feel very prepared. Just it's the way I do growth. It's that I don't, you know what I'm saying? There's people shy away from tough conversations and they shy away from change. And I'm like, right there. Oh, boom. It's like I'm the one who goes to seek to be the smallest person in the room because I keep outgrowing rooms so that I can be challenged and I can feel whatever guilt and shame for not doing or feeling like I'm whatever that smallness is. And then I always rise. The shark will grow to the size of the container that it's in. And so I know my 10x, 20x, 100x of raising the next generation of man. So I'm going to stop right there. Right now, I'm raising the next generation of woman. And to put that in context, 94% of my clientele is powerful, driven women. And I will have a retreat with 90 something people, and 85 of them will be women. 20 of them at the end will be like, thank you so much. And I'm like, for what? Showing me my future husband, or showing me, or retraining something with my dad. I've never felt this safe in the presence of another masculine man who didn't want anything.
Yeah.
I'm clear on my role.
Yeah.
So I'm literally raising the next generation of women with those standards and principles, which are super rare. And it's even more rare when it comes to fathers raising sons to raise sons on how to treat and honor and respect women as a divine masculine. That's even more rare.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said it. I've had this thought, and it's quite a controversial thought for quite some time now, right? Because a lot of women blame men for how men are. And
Yeah.
one thing that I always come back to is like, well, we as women also have a role in that because we raised the men. We raised our sons. We raised them to hate other men, to be like hate women and all those sorts of things because, there's women that bitch about other women in front of their children. And then there's, he's a deadbeat dad and all those conversations and all this type of thing. And I remember when I met my partner, it was literally 24 hours after I'd made the decision that men could love, right? Because I had this perception from my own childhood, my own traumas, that men didn't know how to love because they would always abandon and always do the things. And so when I made that decision, like this is where I was like, okay, God's here because 24 hours later, I'm on a date with the now love of my life, who is a present, strong, masculine man in the work with me. But learning, like, just my road to loving him wasn't like, oh my God, he's available for love. It was like, how do I get to learn that you can love? And through that, it really opened my eyes. But now having a son and seeing how sensitive he is, seeing how tapped in and tuned in he is intuitively, it's really like opened my eyes to how much men have been shut down through their life because we hear these stories of men are not intuitive. Bullshit. Men are incredibly intuitive. My partner will call me out on some of the things that I will not even see because his intuition is so strong. How do you find when you hear stories like that? How does that narrative affect how you train the men who come in with those stories?
Well, one, you can do a lot because a lot of men, there's just like heavy ego, but they're always watching. They're always watching. You can teach and train a lot by way of example.
Yeah.
So when I show up, when they see how I honor them, and I can be in a room full of beautiful women, and be a pillar as if my wife is standing in the room.
Yeah.
And that's a rare thing to see. And so I always get these after compliments, not in the moment, but like 2, 3, man, you know what? I've been watching you for like the last year and I thought it was fake, but man, I watch how like you truly honor women. I see how you honor your wife and I watch the videos of your daughter and it's like no kid just magically shows up like that. Like they're being domesticated a certain way. And there's a way to, people don't do what you say, they do what they see. So when they see it and they feel it, I was like, oh shit, no, that's the real thing. It's kind of like what you did. You're like, oh, that's the real deal. Men do that same thing because people can show things online all day long. And then when it comes to a person and they're just like, yo, I can see how much it is for show. The person who you see online is the person you see in person.
Yeah.
And, it's taken me a long time to get through that, but that's the whole purpose of having a company that's based off of self-expression and authentic expression and being yourself. It's like, you don't need to see 20 different versions of me. It's like, this is me. And if you don't like me for being me, at least I know it's real.
Yeah.
But if you don't like me and I'm being a false representation of myself, now that's what's off because you're like not even talking or connecting with the real version of me.
Yeah.
So I think being a powerful representation to show people what devotion looks like. A lot of people don't even know what it looks like.
No.
So they're pulling just like I did. I had to literally create a character in my brain and make that affirmation until it became me. I adapted into what I was affirming of myself. So me simply going out, doing nothing, and just being who I am, being a devotional, loyal, respectable, integrous, honorable, self-loving leader, man, father, husband. And holding it, that's a lot of weight to hold because it's rare.
Yeah.
So that is what's now starting to plant a lot of seeds, and people are starting to take me even way more serious than they did before because they thought it was for show until their show broke down and mine kept flourishing.
Yeah. Well, it's the conversation of like misalignment never lasts, right? What's done in love will always stay. And it's that when, like, I love that you use the word devotion in this process because that's one of those words that I personally, when I hear it, I'm just like, oh, yes. Because not a lot of people can say the word and hold the vibration that it actually carries with it, you know? And so,
right. That's why a lot of people don't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember like way back when, before I really understood that word or what it meant to hold presence with that word, I would literally be like, ugh, devotion, ugh. Like my whole body was just like offline with it because I didn't have it with myself. So how could I bring that to anyone else, right?
Yeah.
If there's no practice with self, there's no practice with anyone, really. There's just dissociation everywhere. And so, yeah, it's really potent. I want to, like, I'm just mindful of time, so I want to bring this in. One of the questions that I ask every single person that comes on this podcast is, if this was the last time this audience or whoever it is that is hearing this episode right now was to ever hear you speak, what words would you want to leave them with?
I want you to write a letter with your dominant hand to your little self, apologizing to them for leaving them. And just really honoring the fact that they didn't truly get to receive your full presence for whatever reason. And when you're done with that letter, switch to your non-dominant hand, which operates a different part of your brain, and then write a letter from your little self to your big self, saying all the things that you wanted to say that you never felt like you had the permission to about anybody and to yourself. And let whatever comes out, come out. And when you're done with that letter, I want you to write a third letter with your dominant hand. You're writing that letter to the future version of yourself 1 year from now. Whatever you're wanting to call in your life, allow this letter to be a celebratory letter that is celebrating yourself on accomplishing all of those things that you're calling in as if they already exist right now. And when you get to the end of that letter, sign it, seal it, make sure that you put next year's date, mail it to yourself, and don't open it up until this time next year. This is how you write your future. And all I ask is that you trust deeply with all of the divine synchronicities that want to come through. Whether that they may seem good or bad in the moment, just know that they are all connected because you're calling your future forward instead of living as a recreation of your past. Trust the process, my friend. Go, be brave, because your bigness is worthy of being lived. That's what I would say.
Hit me right in the feels there with that one. Really beautiful. I think I personally needed to receive that in that moment too. So thank you. I'm like, he's talking right to me right now. So deeply appreciate it. It has been an absolute honor having you on here. And I'd love to know, we've talked about artist power, we've talked about, what you do. How can people connect with you? Obviously, I'm going to put everything in the show notes so they can find you, connect with you. But how do they come into your world?
Well, I love this because August 12th through October 20th, I'm doing a 90-day mastermind. It is online. There will be about 45 to 50 people. And I just love to see people's whole life be effortlessly successful. And I want to zone in on that word effortlessly, effortless success, whole life. And I have a mastermind called Artist Power Expressed, where I will be teaching a lot of physical world and non-physical world tools and skill sets that can translate to every area of your life, building your capacity, expanding your territory so that you can actually hold for a big life. Because if you don't have the foundation for it, you're going to lose it. And that's where the unworthiness comes from, because you didn't build the foundation first. So that is a major foundation builder for anybody that wants to create a launching pad in their life or whatever it is they want to create. And they also inherit 55 epic, high vibrational humans. So that turn into whatever it wants to turn into. Because I specialize in attracting and putting together the right combination of people, just like I do harmonies. So that's August 12th through October 20th. And then November 1st through the 5th is our next Artist Power Awakened 4-day retreat here in Austin. And I will just say it's like the holy version of Harry Potter, where magic, you discover your magic. And, sometimes we tap into your ancestral lineage, but you really learn who you really are and how to use your tools around other. It's like the School of Hogwarts, and it is fun, and it is magical, and people, put it towards their business, put their intimacy, their relationships. It's like literally, when you can change your state and vibration and know how to do it, that is an attunement. So once you get attuned, you can tune it to any frequency you want to. So that'll be that. And if you're ever in Austin or surrounding areas, I do it's called Voices of Expression. It's like my own version of church without the judgment and shame. And I just invite people to come and sing and open up their throat chakras, align their energy centers. And it's just magical, and it's taking the state by storm. And people are just flying in from all over the country to come attend a free event. So there's Instagram, and everything that I'm doing is connected to creating a space where the little kid inside of the adult is actually happy, and they feel safe enough to play with their God-given gifts and spread that to the world and create a lifestyle out of it.
We're back in January, by the way. So we're coming to play. I'm super, super excited. So yeah, as I said, what an honor having you here. Ladies, gents listening, do yourself a favor. Get in this man's world. I have absolutely loved, since meeting you, I've obviously paid more attention and those sorts of things. And I love what you bring to the world. It's very special.
Thank you so much. And as I always say, if you spot it, you got it.
Well, I received that one. Thank you so, so much, Garrain.
You're so welcome, my friend.
Thank you.